With the first half of my quarterback, running back, and wide receiver lists done, it's only right we get into these tight ends. Today I'll be going through and revealing my 20 through 11 fantasy football tight ends for this upcoming fantasy football season. Quick plug here, as you're already on my channel, you might as well check out my podcast while you're at it, right? My co-host and I, we release a podcast every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the latest and greatest sports news. Super fun, two great sports minds, we go at it, so check that out every Tuesday and Thursdays if you have some time. But without further ado, let's get into some honorable mention tight ends, and we're going to start here with the second-year man, Trey McBride. He was the first tight end selected in last year's draft, so the potential is there. And with Zach Ertz out probably until September, you can only imagine that Trey McBride finally sees some respectable amount of targets, whether if it's Kyler, whether if it's Colt McCoy, or a younger quarterback. Hopefully, this is a year Trey McBride can get a little bit more production, right? Moving over to Mike Gesicki, as he recently signed with the Patriots, a guy that 2 years ago had a 73 catch, 780 yard season. I believe he was tight end 3 or so that year. He was then franchise tagged by the Dolphins, and he later became one of the biggest afterthoughts in Mike McDaniel's offense. He's now reunited with his old Penn State head coach, which is Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien's now the offensive coordinator in New England. I think they can finally figure out how to use Gesicki to his full potential, right? At least you would hope so here in 2023. My number 20 is a young man, a rookie tight end. Not often you see a rookie tight end this high on someone's list, but it's Dalton Kincaid, a first-round tight end that went to the Buffalo Bills. And in my opinion, the Bills with this draft pick gave Josh Allen his version of Travis Kelce. I've been super high on Dalton Kincaid this entire offseason through the entire draft process, and you could see that a lot on our mock drafts here on the channel. But Dalton Kincaid, he's great at high pointing the ball, which is going to lead to a lot of great red zone opportunities there with Josh Allen. And he also provides great flexibility for this Bills offense to line him inside, outside, on the line, flexed in the backfield, to come out for little flat routes. Dalton Kincaid can do everything as far as flexibility on a football field. He's also great against man coverage. So he's a flyer of a pick in the redraft for sure, right? But I like the risk. The only thing we have to worry about is Dawson Knox. And again, I'm willing to take that risk on a guy that has high potential. 19 for me is going to be Irv Smith, newly acquired by the Cincinnati Bengals. And the intrigue here is that he's a part of one of the most explosive, high-powered offenses in the NFL, right? And he's now going to be the starting tight end of that offense. Hayden Hurst, their tight end last year for Cincinnati, he was on pace for tight end 13 in the limited work that he had last season. Irv Smith is way more athletic than Hurst, so if he can stay healthy, he could be a spot start tight end for us this entire season. The only negatives we have here is his production and targets. They're not guaranteed in the stacked offense that Cincinnati does have. We also have to worry about Irv Smith's health, but all in all, I think he could be a great spot start tight end for us in 2023. 18 is going to be Juwan Johnson, a fantasy favorite last year for a lot of guys. But he finished as tight end 15 last season with a carousel of mediocre quarterback play that the Saints had. But good news, Derek Carr is now in town, so he's going to have the best quarterback play of his young career. I can't remember if he played with Drew Brees or not, but regardless, he's going to have an improved quarterback situation, right? Last season, he was tied third in touchdowns from the tight end position. And basically, if you ratioed it out, every sixth target for Juwan Johnson was a touchdown. I believe he could be a tight end too. The only worry for me here with Juwan is that Taysom Hill exists, and we know they can use him in a lot of ways. We mentioned him earlier, but Hayden Hurst comes in at my number 17 tight end. He's now with the Carolina Panthers. He signed a 3-year deal with them this offseason, so both sides seem to be very interested. Panthers are very committed to him, and he should be Bryce Young's best friend on the field because, as I always say, rookie quarterbacks love to check down. They love to get the quick and efficient throws out there. And the best way to do that is to your running back or to a big body, reliable tight end. Hayden Hurst can be that big body, reliable tight end here for Bryce Young. They should be best friends on the field, especially in the red zone, right? Especially in the red zone. The only negatives here that we have to worry about for Hayden Hurst is that he will be turning 30. We see skill position players usually fall off a little bit as far as their production when they do hit that age 30 threshold, right? And another negative is that these targets are going to be coming from Bryce Young, a rookie quarterback, compared to the second best player in the league, in my opinion, in Joe Burrow. So there's a big drop-off in quarterback play no matter how you put it. All in all, I think Hayden Hurst can still be a very solid tight end 2. Spot starts tight end 1 here for us in 2023. Number 16 for me is a guy that I loved last season, a guy that I was able to grab in around 14 or 15 of my drafts, and he was able to be a very safe and reliable tight end option for me the entire year. Gerald Everett of the Los Angeles Chargers. He posted career highs in receptions and receiving yards last season as he finished with about 58 catches, 550 yards, and 4 or 5 touchdowns. All in all, that is just to say he's a very safe tight end 2. He plays with Justin Herbert, so that's always going to be a positive. But the negatives here is that Gerald Everett has never finished as a top 12 fantasy tight end in any of his 6 career years in the NFL. So that means, if you don't know why that's important, that just means that he hasn't finished as a starting tight end in his first 6 years. So it's a very questionable pick here. That's why he's at number 16 for me. But all in all, I think he's going to be, again, a lot of these guys here in the 20 through 16, 20 through 11, a lot of these guys on today's show are going to be safe tight end 2s with spot start tight end 1 potential. And to me, Gerald Everett is the definition of just that. Number 15 for me is going to be Tyler Higbee. He finished 4th among tight ends in targets with 108 last season, 5th in receptions with 72, but with only 600 or so receiving yards and only 2 or 3 touchdowns. He ended up finishing as the tight end 9, so the volume that he's getting may be misleading, right? Tyler Higbee, he's going to be a decent fantasy option at the tight end position like he always is throughout his career, and I think he's going to continue to do that this season, especially with Matthew Stafford back at the helm. The only negatives here is that he can disappear at sometimes. I mean, his first touchdown last year didn't come until week 15, right? And that was with Baker Mayfield, not Matthew Stafford. So we do have to worry about that, but we know Sean McVay, he's always doing sets and plays with his tight ends. We know he loves to get them the ball. Can it just happen in the red zone just a couple more times, though? That's the thing we have to ask ourselves here with Tyler Higbee in 2023. Number 14 for me is going to be Greg Dulcich, a guy that last year he missed 7 total games with a hamstring injury. It was 5 to start his rookie year and 2 to close out the year. But when he did play in those 10 games, he averaged 5.5 targets per game, and in 4 of those games, he drew 8 or more targets. So he can be a target machine. And to me, I'm a believer in Russell Wilson. I believe he can bounce back next season. Not saying his prime MVP form, but I believe he can bounce back from whatever he called play last season. So Greg Dulcich, I believe is going to be a big part of that. And with all that being said, he's going to be a very intriguing pick here for me in 2023, resulting in a low tight end 1, especially with Courtland Sutton's health issues in his past, with Jerry Jeudy not being the most durable. That can just only open up more targets for Greg Dulcich here in 2023. Number 13 for me is going to be a guy that a lot of people loved going into last season, and the first half of the year really killed this guy's image to most fantasy players. He burned a lot of guys last season, but Cole Kmet, he's one of the few credible pass catchers that Chicago had last season, and Cole Kmet at the end of the day, he did lead the team in targets, catches, receiving yards, and touchdown catches, right? So he did everything in the receiving game for Chicago. He had a great second half of the year, and if Justin Fields is improving the way that Chicago's coaches are saying and the way the media and the reports are saying, if Justin Fields is that much improved as a passer, Kmet's only going to take another step, and especially because he's only 24 years old. So his potential's there, and I guess it all just depends on if Justin Fields improves that much as a passer, right? I believe he could be a low-end tight end 1. The only thing we have to worry about here is DJ Moore and how many targets he gets. Is his volume of targets going to affect Cole Kmet that much? That's a question you have to ask yourself. I don't believe so, especially in the red zone, and I believe that's where Cole Kmet can rack up a lot of his fantasy points this season. Stick with me here as I'm going to pronounce this name, but Chigoziem Okonkwo. I know I mispronounced that name, Titans fans. Don't be too mad, especially because I have him as tight end 12 here for the 2023 season. He was a 4th-round pick coming into last year, and he had a surprising rookie year. Over 30 catches, 450 yards, a couple touchdowns, and a lot of that came in the second half of the year when they finally started to look his way with the ball, right? But in those games that he did play, he did average 14 yards per catch, right? And 9.8 per target. So he's a volume machine. He's getting downfield and he's being targeted on those routes down the field. His athleticism and speed make him a tight end 1 alone to me. That just makes him, he's super fun to watch, right? But with his quarterback questions, with any quarterback aside from Tannehill getting playing time scares me drafting Okonkwo here in 2023. But if Tannehill's the guy from day one to the last day of the season, even if Will Levis gets some run, I believe that Okonkwo could be a very solid and reliable tight end 1 here, a low-end tight end 1 for us in 2023. My last one here for today's show is going to be Dalton Schultz at my number 11 spot. Again, he has a rookie quarterback in CJ Stroud, and a thing that I preach on this channel, whether if it's on the Tuesday and Thursday podcast or if it's on these fantasy shows, rookie quarterbacks love to check down. They love to get quick and efficient throws out there. The best way to do that is with a big body, reliable tight end or a pass catching back right out the backfield. But Dalton Schultz is going to be that reliable big body tight end for CJ Stroud, and they should be best friends on the field, right? Dalton Schultz was a tight end 3 just 2 years ago, and his fantasy production did taper off a little bit last season, but even that being said, he was still tight end number 10 on the season, so he was worth the draft pick, and he was still a tight end 1 for us these last 2 years. Dalton Schultz, he's not athletic, but he can rack up those intermediate, those 10 to 15 yard catches, and especially if CJ Stroud's going to try and push the ball down the field, he's going to be looking at Dalton Schultz. He's going to be looking his way here in 2023. The only negatives here is that he did suffer a small knee injury last season that kept him out for a pair of games. I don't know if that's even going to be a factor going into this year, but it's just something to look out for as Dalton Schultz, he's getting older. Those knees might play a part in his playing time here in 2023. All that being said, he's still going to be a reliable tight end 1 for me for coming up this season. Just to recap here, we're going to run through our 20 through 11 quicker show today. But again, these are tight ends, and I want to get these shows quicker for you guys as we're just running through 10 spots, right? But at number 20 through 16, it goes as follows. We have the rookie Dalton Kincaid, sensation out of Utah there. Irv Smith, newly with the Bengals, at my number 19. Juwan Johnson, Hayden Hurst, and Gerald Everett round out my 20 through 16. 15 through 11 is Tyler Higbee, Greg Dulcich, Cole Kmet, Chigozium Okonkwo, I think that's way better pronunciation, and Dalton Schultz at my number 11 spot. Let me know how I did. Let me know what you guys think about my rankings down below. Again, another quick plug, as my co-host and we release a podcast every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We talk about the latest and greatest sports news, whether if it's the NFL, NBA, we talk about it all on that show. Right now we have a lot of NBA talk going on, so if you're interested, check us out, man. And I'm sure if you like the podcast or even these fantasy episodes, if you enjoy them, I'm sure one of your best friends will as well. So share it with them, as we appreciate any and all support here on the channel. But until next Tuesday, have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday through Friday. Have a good one. I'm out.